Hello, hello. I'm here with my new BFF, Liz Scully, who is, as you will tell from her accent, from the UK. And I'm so glad to have you here, Liz. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So, and you are, I know you are somewhat of a nomad, at least pre-pandemic, but have you been, are you in, where in the world are you today?
I'm in London, and this is, I've been here since the beginning of the pandemic. I
Oh my
have been
gosh.
here in one place longer than, it's a long time. I don't like it.
You're getting a little restless?
Yes, I haven't been this static since I was about 11 years old. I don't like it. Not
See,
for me.
that's the opposite for me, the pandemic. I'm like, oh wait, yay, I don't have to go anywhere. So however, um, let me ask you first. It has nothing, apropos of nothing, but I see it in your background. Obey the evil coach. Are you an evil coach?
Well, in the nice way. Yeah, Evil Coach is a new launch. It is the weirdest, and I have to say the thing that I adore most of the world. I don't know if I've actually told you about this, but
Mhm.
it is a mix of BDSM, kink, and strategy linked together,
Oh,
so that most people don't understand kink, most
yeah.
people don't understand strategy. Frankly, if you understand both of them better, A, it's amusing, and B, you'll get much better results.
Well, that sounds like fun. That's cool. I love the branding stuff.
Thank you.
So, I am so happy to meet you. And sometimes I think, I was going to think, oh, I wish I had met you years ago. But sometimes people come into your life at exactly the right time. And Liz is a mastermind coach. And something that I've been thinking about for years and never pulled the trigger on was doing a mastermind group. And I think what finally pushed me to that point, other than the fact that we had a fortuitous meeting through Matthew Kimberly, our mutual friend, was that I'm totally maxed out on one-on-one coaching. So can you tell us, since you've done a gazillion of these and that's your expertise, who is right for starting a mastermind program? What kind of coach or consultant?
Well, pretty much anyone can start a mastermind. Obviously, you need a good structure. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be a people person. But most coaches are, most people that offer a service. And that's the key. If you help your clients make decisions, then you are fine to run a mastermind.
Hmm. So you don't have to be at a certain, like, oh, I'm a guru, I'm an expert, I've written 10 books. You don't have to wait to that.
Not at all. Not at all. As long as you have some clients, or at least you know who your clients are, and you can put a bunch of names on a list that are people that are likely to take your sales calls, you can run a mastermind.
Cool. Well, I should mention that we are doing a webinar, and I am thrilled to be hosting you on November 16th. So we want to talk a little bit about that as well. And I know you do a mastermind mastery program. How is what is the webinar? What can folks expect when we get together on the 16th of November?
Well, it's 2.5 hours, which is a nice, long, meaty time. So we're going to be able to dive
Wow.
deeply. It's not just some, a few ideas. It's going to be a nice, deep thing. We're going to cover how to run a mastermind, how to sell a mastermind, but mostly we're going to go into the bits that are the things that I just couldn't find out when I started out masterminding, which was what's the actual structure? People will sort of give this impression that you just sort of throw up a sales page and everything's fine, but you need a theme, you need to build a community, you need to know how to actually structure your sessions. And if you've ever been in a mastermind or something called a mastermind that really just wasn't very good, odds are the person running it just thought, gosh, it's a cash grab. I could do this really well. And they haven't actually got a structure. So we're going to go into all of that underlying stuff. And when I started, I couldn't find that stuff anywhere. I didn't know how long a session should be. I didn't know, what order people spoke in. What do they even talk about? All of that is what we're going to cover.
That's awesome. And selfishly, I'm really looking forward to it because with your encouragement and support, I have decided to wade into these waters myself, or dive off the deep end, as it were, in January. So I'm really looking forward to it from a purely selfish standpoint to find out all the ins and outs of masterminding. But one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about was, is it a better or worse time to do a mastermind group during a pandemic, or when we're not as apt to be in person?
Well, I haven't run in-person anything because I've been nomadic for years. So for at least, I know, almost a decade, really, all of my stuff has been online. I think in the middle of a pandemic, people want connection now more than ever. We've all been isolated into our little homes for such a long time. Now is the time to come together. Yes, we've spent a lot of time on Zoom, but we've also all found that you could have a deep connection on Zoom. And we've seen how a bad Zoom can just be one of the most painful things in the world. So learning how to do it properly really makes a big difference. And certainly with my clients, they're finding that it's a really good time to draw people together. People want leadership, people want ideas and community and to come together in groups. And they're also, let's face it, having to put your shoes on and leave the house. We've all got quite used to the idea that you can do all of it in sweatpants.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Comfy trousers, it's the future, I tell you.
Exactly. Well, the only problem that I've had is that I realized when I did go to put a pair of my jeans on recently because I had to go out into the world, I'm like, well, guess I'll be getting the next size up. So pandemic pants. I need stretchy pants. So, but that's another topic for another day. I do want to ask also in terms of masterminding, because I've been in some that have been mediocre, I've been in some that have been really bad. And I think sometimes they get a bad name because you see the quote unquote guru who charges, 50 or 100 grand for a mastermind and you don't even necessarily get access to them. So some folks leave those with a bad taste in their mouth. What is it that separates, a good mastermind from a really great one?
A lot of it is the curation. Who's in the group? How do you choose who's in the group? Mm-hmm. And what's weird about that, what maybe pause there, is that when you're in a group, you don't notice who's not in a group. You just turn up and think, oh, these people are nice. Mm-hmm. Whereas from the person running it, it's tricky to say no to people who are keen but not a good fit or not a fit for this particular mastermind. Right. If you're really careful with your curation, if you know what to look for, to get a mix of people and a mix of businesses or a mix of personalities, then you can make sure that you're right from the beginning, you're set up to succeed with a mastermind. I've certainly turned up to masterminds and thought, oh, that person's just starting out, or that person's really why am I in a group that has this mix of people? Or where the person running it doesn't really seem that interested. As you said, sometimes they don't even turn up to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So, well, that's good to know because again, I want to create the best experience possible for folks who are involved. And I always have this, and maybe it's a personal thing of like really over delivering and it's like, I want, somebody to say whenever they do stuff with me, like, okay, that wasn't just another mastermind,
Exactly. If I could add to that, the first session of a mastermind, it's really important that's exactly the feeling people get at the end of the session. I have a whole system for how you do that so that people leave thinking, I'm in the right place. I've spent my money well. The other people seem nice. So that kind of reassuring feeling of, okay, it's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. And the chemistry of a mastermind, like you said, is so important. And is that just something, like you said, you curate from the beginning and you basically have to hand select people who will be a good match and a good fit?
So you hand select them. You have a system that builds that into it, so that once you've got a good group of people to work with, you then use a structure that means that everyone speaks every time, that you make sure that you as the person running it is continually kind of stirring that feeling of community into things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that part of it, because community, yeah, it can happen on its own, but it's actually a conscious thing that you can build and you can make better all the time. So with masterminds I run, about the third month in, people begin to sort of fall platonically in love with the group and the process. And from there on in, it just deepens. It's really, really very lovely.
Right. And that's why I thought initially, like, well, don't you have to be in person? And, because I had been in the old school of like, well, I've got to go to, a hotel and a conference room and sit in a conference room with somebody for 3 days. But you really don't need that for the sort of bonding element, do you?
No, you don't have to. I mean, it's great if you do. And it's same for those kind of deep dive weekends are good, or the meet every week. Yes, they're lovely, but you absolutely don't have to. The groups need to be a little smaller if you're doing it online, because it takes a little bit more effort for the person running it to make sure that community builds, but it's perfectly possible.
So having said that, is there an ideal size for a mastermind, or does it
I
depend on
like for an online mastermind, I think 4 people or 6 people, because that way you get regular hot seats and everyone gets to speak, and there's enough sort of space for everyone to talk. I've run them at 8, I've run them at 10 people,
Yep.
and it's just, oh, it's like managing toddlers. It's horrendous.
Yeah. So what is the distinction or the difference between group coaching and a mastermind in your eyes?
Well, a mastermind is actually, maybe it's easier to go the other way. So group coaching tends to be one person with the information who is sharing it with the others. It's a kind of fancy version onto many. There's a
Hmm.
little bit of interaction between the group, across the group, but most of it is channeled through the person who's in charge, who's running it. With masterminds, you as the coach create a container for it, but then the whole group leans in and works together. And it works very much on the principle of, you know, how you can look at someone else's love life and think, oh, they should not be together. That is all wrong, because you can see it so clearly from the outside. A mastermind works on the same principle, except maybe it's looking at your marketing or your health plan or your business, because you just can't read the label inside the jar. That's why coaching is good anyway. But a mastermind, you have 5 other people who are looking at that for you, which is
Hmm.
really helpful.
Yeah, that's good to know. The other thing I was curious about is I'm going to be, and like you, travel obviously and live in many places, but for the first time ever, I guess I'm going to spend 6 weeks in Italy this spring in 2022. Is it still possible to? One of the things I've been worried about, like, okay, can I still run a group if I'm overseas, or if the time zones are a challenge, or
Absolutely. Um, you become slightly obsessed by the speed of the internet. That's that I have to say, I have had because I for many years I lived primarily in Airbnbs.
wow.
I get people to screenshot the speed test. Don't
Mhm.
believe anybody on speed test things.
Yeah.
And the speed up is as important as the speed down. But as long as you have that, and these days, even if it's not great where you're staying, either there's a co-working space nearby, or you can run it from your phone. But that's the key. That is the only thing that is going to stop you, how fast your internet is.
Exactly.
So up a mountain, miles from a mast, or in a cave somewhere, that might be tricky, but everywhere else is likely to be fine.
Yeah, cool. All right, so the underground mastermind could be out, but the
Yeah, that's off.
above
Yeah.
ground, and I'm always looking for all these Kickstarter and Indiegogo, little hotspots and Wi-Fi things and things like that. So I hope that I will be well equipped. Oh, there goes Rocco. He has to make an appearance during every interview. Speaking of working from home, so this is really helpful, and I'm so looking forward to our webinar event on, not even a webinar because it's really more of a mini mastermind on masterminds on November 16th. I so appreciate you doing that. It's very going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll be able to pick your brain. And what else on that webinar? Is there going to be a chance for Q&A
Oh,
and
a huge amount of Q&A. And also we can get really clear on themes, because that's one of the things that's key. As with anything, why is someone going to buy a mastermind? Why are they, which part of your expertise are they going to want? And of course, we'll be talking about your mastermind as well, which I think is going to be really interesting for other people as well.
Yeah, it'll be fun because I always thought, well, I teach video marketing. How can I do a mastermind on that? But I have some ideas. So looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Anything else you want to add to folks in advance of being there, other than you should get your ass there, and it's going to be well worth your while?
I have to say, I'm beyond a mastermind evangelist. I think I might be a mastermind addict. They
Ooh,
have helped me grow my business. They are incredibly fun. There is no homework. There is no prep beforehand, not just for the workshop, but actually running the mastermind.
hmm.
Frankly, as long as you are dressed and facing the camera, let's face it, you only need to be dressed from the clavicles up. As long as you are facing the right direction, it is such a good way to help your clients, to grow things, and you don't give yourself a whole bunch of homework afterwards. I love them.
Well, I'm all in because, as you know, I'm sort of maxed out on one-on-one, and I love my one-on-one clients, but there's nowhere else for my business to go other than this way. So really looking forward to it. We'll see you on November 16th, and it'll be fun.
Yay.